Okay, welcome to another revision video. Today's topic is statistics for paper 2. Since statistics did not come up in paper 1, there's a very high chance that there's going to be a detailed question in paper 2. And when I say a detailed question, it's basically drawing either a histogram or a cumulative frequency and calculating the mean and so on. For these questions, it could be merged together with probability, and you'll come across questions that are merged together with a lot of different topics. We'll see as we go through the questions. Okay, so this is the first question. This is probably from June 19, and the paper is 2-1. So that's where I start, and then I go forward from there up till 2022. This is the table summarizes the distance t meters that women threw the javelin. One of these women is chosen at random. Find the probability that she threw the javelin 80 meters or less. So remember that the denominator for probability is always the total number. So 80 is the total number. 30 meters or less. Let's see which ones were 30 meters or less. This one and this one is 30 meters or less. So I can say that this is 32 out of 80. Now it doesn't say it in the most simplified form, but I'm just going to write it in the most simplified form because it's easy with a calculator. So the answer is 2/5. Okay. Then it says calculate an estimate of the mean. Now if you remember from before, that mean is always sum of fx over sum of f. Okay. F is pretty simple, it's the frequency. Now x in these cases is always the midpoint of the classes that you have. So you can quickly use your calculator, or you just do them manually. How do you calculate the midpoint? You add the upper boundary and the lower boundary and you divide by 2. So this will give me 22.5. This will give me 27.5. This will give me 32.5. This will give me 37.5. This will give me 42.5. And this will give me 47.5. Okay. Now, whenever you're doing such a question, it's best to, tell the examiner what two numbers you're multiplying together. So I'm going to write it like that and then add it up. Although it's not something very challenging, but you need to show the examiner you're working, because you're just going to go on and see what marks are there. So 18 into 37.5 plus 13 into 42.5 and plus 2 into 47.5 divided by 80, which is the sum of f, because they had already told us that. Okay, if it wasn't added up, I would have added up. Okay, then quickly let's see the marks, the 3 marks here. So that means that you have to show me a bit of working before you can sort of get all the 3 marks. So I'm just going to use my calculator to do my working. 25 into 32.5. It's a long calculation. Make sure you type it properly. Don't make silly mistakes. I often do. I think it's 2710 over 80. 33.875. Sounds like a reasonable number. We'll go on and verify it in a bit. Yeah. The answers to these, yes, 33.875. And why is this 22? Oh, I think I made a mistake when I was doing this. This is 16 plus 6, so that's 22, not 32. See, a very silly mistake. 11 out of 40. Okay, moving on. Draw the cumulative frequency diagram for this data on the next page. So I have the grid in front of me. Remember that cumulative frequency is basically frequency added together. So I'm going to create a column for cumulative frequency, and I'm going to say that 6 plus 16 gives me 22. 22 plus 25 gives me 47. 47 plus 18 will give me 65. 65 plus 13 will give me 78. Plus 2 will give me 80. Now remember that when you are plotting cumulative frequency, you will plot against the upper class boundaries only. So you will plot 25 on the x-axis and with that 6 on the y-axis. So the grid is already drawn for me. So 25 and 6 goes here. Okay, I make a small x. It's here to show you. Not necessary to make that x, but you should always, sort of indicate to the examiner what points you've plotted. 30 and 22. 30 and 22. 35 and 47. 35 and 47. And 40 and 65. $45 and $78. 78. 50 and 80. Okay. So drawing the cumulative frequency graph is sometimes tough. Your hands will shake and so on, but you need to learn how to draw a cumulative, a smooth curve. Remember that the examiner will check the smoothness of the curve, and your answers to the next question will also depend on that. So make sure that you draw a smooth curve. The trick to drawing a smooth curve is to drawing as many points as you can in one stroke. Now, since this is a digital tablet, I'm not able to draw a very smooth curve, but I'll try to be as smooth as possible. Okay. Okay, and you always take the lowest boundary and join it to 0. So that was 20. So I'm going to join 20 to 0. The trick is to not lift your hand from the paper. Just place your hand in a position that you can, sort of join as many points as you can with it. And that sort of helps. Okay. Then the next part of the question says, use your graph to find an estimate for the median. Now remember that when you are doing a cumulative frequency graph, the median is simply half of the nth position. Okay, so half of the 80th, which is the 40th. So remember that always when you're doing this, draw a dotted line here to indicate that you've done some sort of working. Okay, so I'm going to say that this is this point, and I'm going to read it from here. I think this is 32.5, then this should be 33 and 33.5. That's my answer. I will go on and check this. The interquartile range. So I'll have to both estimate the lower quartile and the upper quartile. So the lower quartile is 1/4 of nth, which is the 20th then. And the upper quartile should be 3/4 of nth, which is the 60th. Okay, so the 20th looks like 29.5. And 60th. That's where the line is really shaky. So I'll have to make a judgment call here and say that this. Okay, that looks like there's 37.5, 38, and 38.5. So the upper quartile is 38.5 and 29.5. So the interquartile range is a subtraction of the two. That should give me 9, I think. Okay, my answers may be a little off because I've sort of used, I've drawn it on the grid and it's not a very smooth curve. Okay, but let's just check first and then we're going to go on to the last part. That's the correct cumulative frequency graph. It says 32.5 to 34, so my answer is within that range, so my median was correct, and 8 to 9.5, so my interquartile range is also correct. Women who threw the javelin more than 43 meters qualified for a regional competition. Use your graph to estimate the number of women who qualified for this competition. More than 43 meters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find where 43 is. That is 42.5. So that should be 43, that box. I'm going to go up from there. So people above this, whatever this number comes up, are the ones who qualified, right? So I'm just going to draw a line here and see what number I am at. I am at about 74. So how many people are above this line? So I can say that there are 6 people. So the answer is 6 women have qualified. 6, 7, or 8. So we are fine with the answers as well. Okay, not a very smooth curve, yet you're getting answers that are fine. So remember that it's not carved in stone, but the more accurate, the smoother curve, the more confident you can be that your answer is going to be right. You're not leaving it to chance then. Okay, moving on. Again, one of the oranges, so this is a mass of 75 oranges, so that's the total, is chosen at random. Find the probability that it has a mass greater than 200 grams. So greater than 200 grams. So 18 plus 5 gives me 23. Let's not make a mistake now. I don't think this is going to reduce. So it's 23 over 75. Again, it can says calculate the estimate of the mean mass. So again, I have my same formula, sum of fx over sum of f. Now on the exam, you should, sort of do all the working, show me the midpoints that you multiplied together, and show me in the working as well. But since we are a little short on time right now, I'm going to skip that working. I'm just going to calculate the midpoints and write them here. Remember that all your working is checked regardless of wherever you do it on the exam. The examiner will look at tables and so on. Okay, so I'm just going to calculate on my calculator and say that 165 into 4 plus 175 into 10 plus 185 into 15 plus 195 into 23 plus 205 into 18 plus 215 into 5. It's 14435 divided by 75. 192.4667. That should be 192, correct to 3 significant figures. Not 190, don't round it to 192.5 and then to 193. That might give you the wrong answer. So 192, okay, and or 192.5, but not 193. Okay, then it says again on the grid, draw the cumulative frequency graph. Okay, let's draw that quickly. 170 and 4. Again, I'm taking just the upper class boundaries here. 170 and 4. Oh, okay, I need to do the CF first. 410 is 14 plus 29 plus 23. 29 plus 23 gives me 52. Yeah. And then plus 18 gives me 70, and then 75. So I have to plot 170 comma 4. So 170 comma 4. Okay, that's where I should mark. Then 180 comma 14. 180 comma 14. I'll also mark the 0 here. 190 and 29. 190 and 29. Remember that marking each point correctly also carries marks, so make sure that your marks are visible. 252. 210 and 70. And 220 and 75. Okay. So again, that's the challenge for me. drawing this as a smooth curve. Okay, not as smooth as I would want it to be, but that's the best I can do right now. Okay, use the graph to find an estimate for the median. So I'm looking for the half of the 75th percentile, which is approximately 38th, 37.5. So I'm going to look at the 38th. I can't go on and look at the 37.5, although there is a minor possibility here that I could do that. But let's just go on to the 38th. And that gives us somewhat of a round number here as well. That's about 194. Let's check if you're getting the right answer. Yeah, 193 to 195. Okay, oranges with a mass of more than t grams are labeled as class A. 20% of those are labeled as class A. So only 20% of the 75th. Okay, so what does that give me? 15. Okay, so I'm looking for 15 oranges, basically, not the 75th, just 75. I'm not talking about a position. So I'm looking for 15 oranges. Now I'm looking for them in such a way that they have a mass of more than t grams. So above a certain boundary, there should be 15 oranges. Okay, these are oranges and this is 15, not 150. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to look at the bottom 15. Why not? Because above this would then be 60 oranges. What do I want? I want a boundary such that above that boundary there are just 15 oranges. So I'm going to look from the top. I'm going to draw a line from here. What have I done? I've taken 75 and I subtracted 15 and I've landed at 60. So I'm looking at the top 15 oranges. So what grams am I getting? I'm getting 203 grams. So then I can say that 15 oranges have a mass of more than 203 grams, which is also supported by the curve that I just drew. 203. Yeah, and correct answer. Moving on, oranges with a mass of 178 or less are used to make orange juice. Use the graph to find an estimate for the number of these oranges that are used to make orange juice. So 178 or less, 178 or less. And 178, I get to draw this line. So that's about 12 oranges only. Okay, 12. Yeah, correct answer again. Okay, moving on. One afternoon, there were 200 visitors to a library. The table summarizes the time in minutes each visitor spent in the library. The time is given, the frequency is given. On a grid, draw the histogram. Remember that the histogram plots what on the vertical axis is frequency density. What's the formula for frequency density? It's frequency divided by class width. So I have the frequency. Can I calculate the class widths here? How do I calculate the class width? I subtract the upper boundary and the lower boundary. So 20 minus 0 gives me 20. 40 minus 20 also gives me 20. 60 minus 40 also gives me 20. 90 minus 60 gives me 30. 180 minus 90 gives me 90. So class widths are really different towards the end. What I've got to do? I've got to divide every frequency by its class width. So 20, that gives me 1.3. Gives me 3.8. That's a lot. 2.8. Okay, 24 divided by 30 gives me 0.8. Don't end up dividing 30 by 24. That's a very common mistake. 18 divided by 90. So that's 0.2. You see that's a very wide sort of bar at the end. So it's going to have very little sort of height. Okay, marking these, I have to go up to 3.8, so I'm just going to mark 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the first one has to go from 0 to 20. Okay, so I mark my axis. The first bar is from 0 to 20 and it has a height of 1.3. So that's the first bar. I'm going to write 1.3 on top. Then from 20 to 40, I have 3.8. Okay, a little. Forty to 60, 56. And 2.8, sorry, 2.8. Okay, then 60 to 90 is 0.8. 60 to 90, so then somewhere in the middle. And then 90 to 180 is just 0.2. It's a very long sort of width. 0.2, 0.8. Okay, so that completes my histogram. Okay, work out the percentage of these visitors who spend more than 40 minutes in the library. So how many do you think spend more than 40 minutes? All of these people, right? So 56 plus 24 plus 18. 56 plus 24 plus 18 out of the total. What's the total? It says 200 visitors at the top. 200 multiplied by 100. Let's calculate. It's 49%. Okay. Okay, then it goes on. Part B is different. It says Mario. Let me just check if it's the same part B that I was. It's the same paper though. Yeah, it is. Okay, Mario recorded the number of books borrowed by each of the 200 visitors to the library. His results are shown in the table. Find the median. Now, how do you find the median in such a case? So it's 200 visitors again. So I'm going to say that half of 200 plus 1 th. Remember that only it's half of nth only for the cumulative frequency, and for the quartiles as well, it's 1/4 of n and 3/4 of n. Otherwise, whenever you have raw data or just group data in a frequency table, you sort of go on and use n plus 1 th and see if it's landing up in the middle. Then you count two values, you'll take the 100th and the 101st values. So let's start checking. Where do we get 100 or 101st? Let's start adding up the frequency and see how many observations have been accumulated. So 64 observations so far. When I add 42, I have accumulated 102 observations at this point, which means that the 100th observation and the 101st observation will both be 2. So I'm going to do 2 plus 2 divided by 2. Okay, which is 2 essentially. So 2 books is the median. Okay, I'm erasing this because in fact I don't need to. Okay, so calculate the mean then. The mean is simple. It's again sum of fx over sum of f. In this case, I already have x, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have f as well, so I just need to multiply. Okay, on the exam you can also sort of, when it's not something like midpoints or anything, you can just put a few dots and show the examiner that you've sort of understood the working. Okay, and it's best to, once you get the total, it's best to write down the total as a fraction and then sort of divide it. 526 divided by 200. It's 2.63. Okay, then it says one of the visitors is selected at random and the probability that the visitor borrowed more than 4 books. So more than 4 books are 21 plus 13. That means a total of 34 people out of 200. I can reduce this, but this answer is also absolutely fine. 34 out of 200. Okay, now this one, although it's a probability question, since it has come up, I'm just doing it here. It says two of the visitors are selected at random. Find the probability that only one of them borrowed 6 books. Give your answer as a decimal correct to 4 significant figures. So remember that this is always a 3-mark question. Why is this a 3-mark question? There are two things about it. One is that when you select 2 visitors, the number of visitors will fall. So then the first category that you're, sort of doing it, it's going to be the denominator is going to be 200 and the next is going to be 199. Okay. Now what are the numerator is going to be? They're going to be 6 and 6 not. Okay. Let's first do this. Borrowed 6 books. Okay. How many borrowed 6 books? 13 borrowed 6 books. How many did not borrow 6 books? That's a lot, which is 187. So the first person is 13 out of 200 who borrowed 6 books. That's the probability of getting the first person who borrowed 6 books. And the next one is 6 not, which means 187 out of 199. Now, what I've done inherently here is assumed an order, that the first one was 6 and the other was 6 not. It could be the reverse as well. So you always have, when it is a 3-mark question, you will always have that in 3-mark questions, that you have to reverse this order as well. And then add, or you would just simply multiply by 2. For those of you who've done add math, no, I don't think you would have come across that in add math as well. You will do that in your A-level math if you go on and do that. But there are ways of handling this directly, but this is plain and simple. This is the easiest of questions to handle. So I'm getting 0.1222. Correct to 4 significant figures, yes. Let's verify our answer. Okay, that is a lot of questions, so I will have to see my answers. Let's start with the last one, that's 0.122, that was 34 or 100. Yeah, I got all the answers right, I think. I was going to check that 49, yeah, 49% was already there. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so that's the next question. It says 50 members of the athletic club attempted the high jump. The table summarizes the heights in the jump in centimeters of their jumps. Okay, P and Q are missing. The athletic course uses the mid-interval values to calculate an estimate of the mean height jumped by the 50 athletes. His estimate of the mean height is 153.6. Explain why P plus Q equals to 12. So I think this is plain and simple. You can just say that P plus 10 plus 15 plus 13 plus Q should all add up to 50. And if that's the case, then P plus Q should be 15 minus 38. So P plus Q should therefore be 12. That's the reason that it has to add up to the frequency. I don't think any other reason would be provided here, but then, yeah, you can see. So you just need to show me the calculation. Okay, then it says that there's another one. Now, what would have multiplied with P? The midpoint is multiplied with P, which means that they've used the mean to construct another equation. So I'm going to use the mean to construct. For the mean, I need the midpoints now, because when you have classes, you need the midpoints. So 142.5, 147.5, 152.5, 157.5, 162.5. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to put those all in the formula. 142.5 into P plus 147.5 into 10 plus 152.5 into 15 plus 157.5 into 13 plus 162.5 into Q divided by, how many values are there? 50 equals to 153.6. So 142.5p. I'm going to add up the rest of them on the calculator without hesitating, because I know that these need to be added together rather than, written each one individually and then added together. It's going to be a lot of writing down if I do that. So that's giving me 5810 plus 162.5q equals to, I'm going to cross multiply 50 with 153.6, and that gives me 7680. So let's see if we are getting the right answer. Five eight one zero. It's 1870. So 142.5 p plus 162.5q equals to 1870. So I've proved. Then it says find the values of p and q, show your working, which means I'm asking you to solve simultaneously, but I have to show you my working. So I think the easiest way to do this is not to eliminate. It's a complicated elimination if you look at it. So I'm just going to use a substitution. I'm going to say that I'm using this equation to construct a substitution that says 12 minus q, and I am then substituting here. So substitution 142.5 into 12 minus q plus 162.5q equals to 1870. 142.5 into 12, 1710. Okay, that's 20q, and 1870 minus 1710 gives me 160. So q is 8. If q is 8, then p must be 4. So 4 and 8. Let's check if you have the right answers. 4 and 8. Okay, correct method to eliminate one variable. It does not mean that you just can do elimination. You can also do substitution. That's also a way of eliminating one variable. When you have substituted, you actually get rid of it. Okay, moving on. Okay, this is again about cumulative frequencies. I don't think there is a need to do this question again. It's going to, sort of give me the same answers. And it's again medians and interquartiles. I'm going to do something more interesting if I find it, and to be continued in the next video. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and follow the channel for more content. Thank you.